Alright, hey everybody, and welcome back to Kings of the Rift, audio and video style, I guess you could say. And I am back with something I did a little bit, 3 years ago at this point, and that is Gold Knight's LCS Power Rankings. This actually is the origination of the Kings of the Rift name. So let's take a look at how I think coming up into the 2020 season, um, how the teams are going to be going from 10 to 1 in ascending order. So first off, we're going to start off with FlyQuest. I believe FlyQuest is going to be 10th this season. And the reason why, or not even just this season, but the split in general. And the reason why is because I honestly think they're just a stale team. There's not much movement that have, you know, there hasn't been much movement from split to split. And last split they did have poor results, and I definitely do think that um, they're not going to get that much further. And their competition does look does look a little bit better this year, at least at the bottom. Um, the bottom half teams I think are stronger than what the stronger teams were last split, I guess, if that makes any sense. Um, but I honestly also don't think that PoE, Power of Eagle, I don't think he's that much better than POB, Pobelter. Um, PoE didn't look really strong at all last split. And I really think that he will look bad here as well. Um, FlyQuest just doesn't seem like it's a great team. I don't know. Something about it's just wrong. Um, they don't seem to have any hype around them. They don't seem to have um, anything like going for them, which could lead to a couple upsets. People might look past them, which causes them to not realize how strong Viper is, or or Santorin, which is I think honestly where the power will actually come from. And honestly, I just feel like they have less firepower than the competition, especially with Wild Turtle, who is getting older, um, and he just for quite a long time he seemed poor. Um, like he seemed like he's just not that great. And it just seems to be getting worse and worse ever since he left TSM back in 2000, I think it was spring 2018, or 2017. But yeah, so I think FlyQuest is going to be ranked 10th at the end of the regular split. Now, mind you, this is going to be at the end of the split when before playoffs. This is how I think how everything is going to go. So on to the next one. We have ranked number 9, Immortals. And honestly, I think the reason that we have Immortals at number 9 is just because Ica, which is how I've learned, or not learned, but this is how I'm going to pronounce that name. That's right there. Ica, we don't know how he is. He's from EU. He could be great. I think Soaz and Zabatine and all that, the French people, I think they really, vouched for him, which I think is great. But taking someone like that who's kind of unproven in the LCS just doesn't seem like it's going to be a great fit for the LCS. We'll have to see if he gets rolled over by the likes of Jensen and Niski and Crown and all that. So I also think Altec and Hakuho are just outclassed. Altec was out of the league for a reason. There were better ADCs, and I still think there are better ADCs than him, but they could, possibly do okay. And Hakuho, he was great that, 2 splits ago, where he was able to actually take out TSM, the ban Thresh, all that kind of memes and everything like that. but I just don't see him being that great now. He hasn't seemed like his old self, at least, and I never was a big fan of him back when he was in Team Envy and the old Clutch, the old Echo, when he was in Echo Fox, and it's just, I don't know. I just don't like him. And it seems that the team is just a slow-paced team. Like, if you think about it, Soaz isn't going to be that, carry performance. You know, wasn't his the meme of the dog champs and all that on it, Fnatic, playing those tanks, playing those Nasus, playing just the, all right, farm up and don't die, here we go, now my whole team's going to carry. And then Xmithy, he's going to be basically, consistent tank jungler Olaf or Lee Sin or something like that, where basically they just have to wait for team fights and it's not going to be explosive. Then you go, Ica, I have no idea how he's going to play. If there is a carry, this needs to be it. And then Altec and Hakuo, they don't seem like Altec was never really the, pop-off bottom laner. So to see him at this point be, be the AD carry and have to, carry if Ica doesn't, I don't know. And honestly, there's no real star player here, which I don't think every team needs to have a star player, but there's at least, with every other team, there's at least one or two people who you can look at and see, you know what, yeah, that's the player to focus on. That's the player who has the, the onus on them. And I think, honestly, if anything, it's Xmithy, but I think that's only because his tangential connection to Team Liquid, as, he just came off that 4-peat with them. Let's see how it goes for Immortals. But up next, we have CLG, Counter Logic Gaming. They're ranked number 8 in my power rankings because they just have a seemingly low-powered roster. No one seems to be that outstanding. I think Crown could only be the only person who's able to really pop off that quickly. But even so, that was when he had Meteos as a strong jungler beside him that allowed him to roam as often and as freely as he wanted to. And honestly, if we go to the top lane, Ruin, he was taken just advantage of as the split went on, last split, because he did not have a good time once people figured out, okay, this is what he's going to do. He's going to play like this. He's going to this is how to exploit him. And for some reason with that, he ended up stopped playing confidently. Ruin did seem like he was going to be that strong top laner that Counter Logic Gaming needed, but they, for some reason, didn't let him do that. So I definitely do think that Smoothie and Stixite are going to be reliable down in the bottom lane, but they're more of a late game duo than they are something that's going to just pop off every single time. They can play the Caitlyn Morgana or Caitlyn Braum. I could see them playing, and just, all right, here we go. Now we're just going forward. We're getting the late game fight. Okay, now we won. And if I had to rank Wiggly, I would say he's probably at least 6th in the jungle position, behind Broxa, which is a strange, who knows what he's going to be like coming into the LCS, but, behind Broxa, Dardoch, Xmithy, behind probably Meteos and Blabber, so, and definitely behind Svenskeren as well, so I definitely don't think he's that great. There were a couple times last split in the summer that he was able to, show off a bit. but I don't think that he's going to be. Uh, he's not going to be that strong. I don't think. So that's the reasons why I think Counter Logic Gaming is number 8. So then we go on to number 7, and number 7 is Golden Guardians, the new Golden Guardians with that beautiful logo. Take a look at that. Looks really nice. I like the font and everything like that. They knocked it out of the park with this. That's not what I'm ranking though. So unfortunately, they are at number 7. And why are they at 7? They were trending upwards since last season, especially since their inception as well, being back-to-back 10th. Once they figured out, okay, we can't just make it with NA players who aren't that great, but there's veterans and there's there's these rookies and all this, and we're gonna build up a team from the ground up. That doesn't work. So my biggest thing is Haunter's great. Closer seems like he is pretty good from what I've heard. Golden Glue definitely has something to prove though, because he has had starting spots and blown it a couple times. Had to been swapped out. Shared time with Jensen back on Cloud9, and he just isn't that strong of a laner back then. But I think now that he's been able to have that confidence, he's going to be. I think he's going to be really good. The only issue I do have is Keith as the support. I understand why they put Keith as support. He has experience with the team. He has a strong voice in, this is what we have to do, this is where we're going, and so on. But I can see him being used as a kind of interim support unless he pops off, unless he's just really good as a support. But I can see him being a good support for this, or not even good support, but an okay support for this split. And then going into the next split, the summer split, I can see him probably being taken, I guess. I can see him just being brought, taken away, putting in someone new, someone better than Keith, obviously. But I think at that point we'll see how everything goes. But that's the reason why I had Golden Guardians at number 7. So then we go to number 6, which I think is the brand new Evil Geniuses with that beautiful logo. It looks really nice. And I like their whole live evil, that kind of thing. Really cool, branding and all that I think they have. Which actually might be something I do, rating the branding and the presence of these teams. But Evil Geniuses are number 6 because Kumo seemed like kind of a flash in the pan. If you guys don't remember, Kumo was the old Shiro back in Cloud9 Academy. He's been trying for a little bit to get into the LCS through Challenger as well as Academy and everything. He has the passion to get into playoffs and to get, to be really good. He did well last split, but I think honestly that's because people didn't know who he was. And Kumo and Sven played together those a couple times, so having Sven Skaren, I think honestly is a great boon to the team. It definitely helps them out because Sven Skaren is the MVP jungler. So he's going to be able to guide this whole team, I think, the way he wants. And then you take a look at Bang, who has, honestly, since joining the LCS, has been so-so. There's been points where it's like, oh, that's Bang. I forgot that Bang is supposed to be good. But there's other times where you just say, wait, is this just a regular LCS player? That he's not this double world champion, just amazing person who's just supposed to be great. Um, so I honestly think you have to work around Bang and give him the ability to play confidently, which I honestly think Zazel will be able to do, is give him that confidence and not play in the old style that Afro used to do with Bang. They're both older players, both Bang and Afro. So I think that having someone younger like Zazel will definitely help him kind of branch out a little bit. But honestly, I think Jizuke, he is an unknown right now. He was good a while ago when he was the Italian Stallion, when he was, when it was still the EU LCS. But last year, it just seemed like he was very lackluster. You never heard of him. You didn't hear anything about him. I didn't even know he was still playing when they did announce him for Evil Geniuses. And I honestly think that Jizuke could either make or break this team. If he plays back to where his strengths actually are, with the roaming, the kill pressure and all that, I honestly think he could be great. But he has to contend with the likes of Niski, Jensen, Bjergsen, Froggen even. So I definitely think that it's going to take a bit to figure out if he's going to be good or not. So that brings me into my number 5 team, Dignitas. So Dig came back into the LCS, and they did so with a huge signing that actually was just a retainer. They retained Huni for, I think it was 2.3 million or something like that. A ridiculous amount of money. And I think the thing is that Huni, as great as he is, I definitely think he has very high highs. He can carry the game single-handedly, or he has very low lows. He can either play amazingly on GP and Rumble, or just kind of lackluster on a Lucian top or a Casio and just be a non-factor throughout the team. And that, even so, like Grig, he wasn't fantastic last split for TSM, and he might even be some kind of damaged goods. I spelled damaged wrong. So basically, he's just not, I don't know how to say it, he wasn't a great jungler last split, and when he was playing, which wasn't that often, he did end up then having to go to Academy when Spica was brought up, because then Grig was working top lane because Barandini and TSM Academy was banned for being, I think, toxic or something like that. And so Grig has just been through through shit this last couple of this last split, the last year even. So I think it'd be interesting to see how Grig goes and how he plays with Huni. I think Huni could teach him and kind of mold him to, hey, do what I want, and there we go. We'll be good. So then you have Johnson. Johnson, known. He's kind of an unknown in the LCS. Although I watched a interview with Afromu and Huni with Travis Gafford, and it did seem like Afromu seems quite optimistic with Johnson. Johnson has had multiple accounts in the top 10 of solo queue, so he could be really great. I've heard of him, honestly. He was the old TSM bot laner, which actually was kind of good working with Grig. So I think it's just kind of interesting. And I think having Froggen as well, which I didn't particularly mention on here, having Froggen is kind of a pressure point you have to agree to. Because there's also here with Johnson, Afromu's paired up with him, but you have to worry about the demanding top laner in Huni as well as the demanding mid laner. You have to kind of find that balance between giving attention top lane and allowing Huni to carry, um, and give him the ability to do so while letting Froggen not be pushed in, letting Froggen not, not push his enemy in and then, roam and get caught. So let's just see how it goes for Dignitas, but I definitely think they have the power to be number 5. Now, with another team that came up and honestly shocked me with their signings and how everything went was 100 Thieves. So 100 Thieves signed Sunday again, brought him back to the top lane, which is fantastic. It's an upgrade. Meteos they brought back as well, which is great. They who knows about Ryoma? I heard he's good in the Oceanic Pro League, but I don't know. We'll have to see and see if he's any good. Then we have Cody Sun, who was great when he was on 100 Thieves before. He was great on Clutch. He's just he has the consistently highest numbers from year to year, and I honestly think that he's probably the second best bot laner from NA behind Doublelift, just because of the way that Double plays. I think he's more consistent than Cody, but Cody definitely is up there. And so I definitely think that the new image of the team, with not having it the Prolly show and the Nade Shot show, I definitely think with having Papa Smithy with it, and having Zix, I think that there's more of a League of Legends feel behind the team versus just a brand that's playing League of Legends. It's kind of an interesting thing to see that a couple of years ago before the finals, I think it was 2018 spring finals, they were out shopping and I think getting shoes and all that before the finals in Miami, and that just looked really bad. You need to be practicing. You need to, not say, yeah, whatever, no big deal, we'll be good, because then they weren't. And of course, that's the issue. So then we have, on to the next one, number 3, Cloud9. I definitely think Cloud9 is going to be number 3 because Licorice is the best top laner in NA. I think almost no one measures up to him. Huni is up there probably. Impact obviously is up there as well. But there's no one really that kind of gets up there with him and is as consistently good as Licorice. Licorice is able to come at team fights in a different way than many people. He's able to come from a strange angle or come from over a wall or catch you retreating, and he's able to just route you and route your team and just make his team win. And honestly, I think Vulcan's pickup was great for C9 because C9 needed to pick up someone who was a little bit more mechanically skilled in the bottom lane, which pairing Sven and Vulcan together I think is actually really good. Vulcan is pretty mechanically strong. He's a laning support that also has that kill pressure, and Sven just kind of seems... I think this is good for Sven because he seemed tired at TSM. And it almost seemed like everybody who left TSM had this buff on them. When Svenskeren left and went to Cloud9, he had a great split. When Santorin left, he had a great split as well. When, for example, when Doublelift left, he obviously had a great splits, and he ended up getting a 4-peat with Team Liquid. So I think the post TSM buff will definitely help Sven out here. But I definitely think this team could take a while to mesh. There's many new parts that are different parts than what they were dealing with before. Um, Niski, Blabber, and Licorice are not dealing with Sneaky anymore. Not dealing with Sneaky kind of, it seemed like he was kind of passive, at least in like communication and all that, and calling for resources. So having to deal with Sven, who is arguably more resource intensive, you're going to have to worry about a pull, a push and pull in pressure across the whole team. So, and then obviously Blabber will have to prove himself. He's no longer he no longer has that safety net of having Svenskeren to call back on and say, okay, Svenskeren, if I fail this match, you're gonna jump in and you're gonna be, you're gonna know everything and be able to win. So Blabber, I think, is definitely going to have to step his game up. So we go to number 2, which unsurprisingly will be Team Solo Mid. It was hard putting TSM at number 2. I've been a fan of TSM for years, about as long as I've been a fan of TL as well. But I definitely think that TSM, at the end of the regular split, this is pre-playoffs because I don't know how they're going to play. I have to see this. But I definitely think TSM is going to be number 2 because they do have an upgrade in the jungle with Dardak over Acadian, Greg, or Spica, or whoever. Any one jungler is better than 3 mediocre jungles. Acadian was great, but he didn't have that confidence. He had that issue, the whole issue with Sven and the girlfriend, but also maybe not the girlfriend issue. Maybe it's maybe it was just, oh, I wanted to play this way and you didn't want to play that way. Who really knows? Who really cares? It's an upgrade in the jungle now. And they got rid of Sven, so they brought on Kabe, who Kabe's been one of the star 80 carries over in Europe, and it seems like he's fresher. He definitely doesn't seem like he's, all right, let's just play Ezreal. Oh, let's play Ezreal and Varus every game. All right, cool. Now we'll just wait until late game. I'll just poke, and there we go. Hope to get a chunk on someone, and and then win the game that way. So I definitely think he's less cocky and fresher than Sven. So I think Kabe will be good. Bjergsen is always consistent, but I definitely think he'll be better now that he has more help in the jungle. The fact that Dardak is able to stand up to the pressure that Bjergsen exerts on the jungle, I think honestly will help. If you have this power dichotomy in the jungle mid position, I definitely think you can make it work. I think Dardak respects Bjergsen, and I think that's the biggest thing. If you think back to the Breaking Point times where Dardak was always shitting on Phoenix, it's because he didn't think Phoenix was good. And it was because Phoenix wasn't good. So you need to figure out, the mid lane issue and the jungle issue. So I think honestly this works together, Dardak and Bjergsen. And I think honestly this team has something to prove. As I've said before, there's, TSM hasn't been to Worlds in 2 years. That's the longest drought they've had since their inception. They were to Worlds every single time, every single split, without a doubt, without a fail. They basically were either 1, 2, or 3 every year, and then 2 years in a row, they're out of it. So they have to get back to Worlds. If they don't, they all lose a job, I think, because there's just a lot going on in the TSM kind of world. So I definitely think they'll be number 2. They do have the ability to take out Team Liquid. They have the ability to take out, I think, many of the other top teams as well, with a better jungler, with a better top laner, with Kabe being able to be kind of a fresh face in the team and say, all right, let's focus forward and just decimate. So, if you've been keeping tally, that means that there's only one team left to be number one, and that is Team Liquid. Now, I know this is probably by, hooked together by my bias, but Team Liquid honestly has been the most dominant domestic team in history. They're just able to, no matter what, win, and that's great. That is so. It's good. It's good to see this consistent team consistently be good. And the only issue I can see being a little problem is the visa issue with Broxa. It's great that they're memeing it up and all this, but I don't think the visa will be approved before at this point for Saturday. So let's see kind of how everything goes. It's possible that this is all just a ruse because of how much they're memeing it up, trying to make sure no one's watching Brox's, scouting Brox's accounts and all that. Baiting people into thinking Pobelter or Mike Young will play. If you're gonna draft for Pobelter, it's gonna be a lot different than drafting for Broxa. So I definitely think that there is a chance that it might be weird, but to run it back from the 4-peat with basically the same team, but with a more fight, a better fighting jungler, I think that's really good. I think they'll be able to just take it, and run with it and be able to just keep going. And the shot calling on Team Liquid is just usually decisive and clean. You don't have to worry about a miscommunication here, especially since everybody does speak perfect, mostly perfect English. I know Core and Impact are a little, hard to understand sometimes, but I think that their shot calling and their knowing when to fight and all that, I think is fantastic. They're very decisive when it comes to, okay, it's time to win the game. Let's rotate mid. Let's take the turret. Someone steps up too far, we kill them, and we take their inhibitor, we take their nexus, and that's game over in 24 minutes. So I think that's why Team Liquid is number one and why I have everybody else the way it is. So if you guys agree, let me know. We will talk next time. Let me know in the comments. And also subscribe to my podcast, Kings of the Rift. You can find that on Anchor, Castbox, what's the other ones? iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, all that different stuff. Anywhere you can find podcasts, definitely go find it and listen to this. Today I talked about the rosters for the 2020 season, and I kind of went through how I feel about them, how I think they'll do, why I think this was a good move, why I think this was a bad move. So I will talk to you guys in the next episode, and I'll see you. Peace.